Hi, everyone. This is it's Elena, aka the Vibrant Cat Eye. I have a guest with me today. This is Heather Turman, writer and filmmaker, and today we're going to be discussing the film, the Academy Award winning for Best Picture film, Everything Everywhere All at Once, and we'll be discussing today the metaphysical aspects of it, spiritual aspects. What the story is trying to teach us and everything. And at some point, I'll be doing a tarot reading on that today. And also, I have a pendulum board too. So, like, if you
Cool.
can do that and stuff. So, it's good to have you, Heather.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. I'm always down to talk film, and especially ones that have deeper themes that touch on spirituality and anything metaphysical. So super down. I mean, that's what I do. Pretty much is watch and analyze films all the time. So
It's fun, and especially when you get kind of into those deeper aspects of the storytelling, as far as because this podcast, it's all about exploring the not just the deeper themes, but the spiritual lessons, what you know maybe the collectives, what our guides, and what I guess it depends, like, who's watching the film, who's observing the film, what lessons we have, we are learning individually plus collectively and everything. Because when it comes to watching TV and film, in a way, like, energetically, sometimes we can get, like, hypnotized in a way by it, and it just depends too, because everything's made of energy, everything's vibration. So it's interesting, with the film, Everything Everywhere All at Once, because what I find interesting about this film is that it deals with themes of a multiverse, or parallel realities, which is something I feel like, in the collective right now, is really coming through, especially with the Marvel films. There's a whole, like, universe, or multiverse kind of
right.
created and stuff. And yeah, and I think that more writers and directors, producers are all finding ways to I'm gonna go let my cat out, who's wanting to go outside.
Oh, sure, no worries.
Yeah. So yeah, a lot of I think a lot of filmmakers right now, and writers, and anybody who's collaborating on on a story, is starting to see. I mean, this is my observation. I think a lot of people are starting to see that there's so much that you can do with a story now, and it's not kind of beholden to what, like, the old rules were with with what one can do. Um,
Well, yeah, I mean, I think, like, we're as the medium of film has evolved, you
mhm,
know, we are able to do anything now, on camera that allows, like I imagine back in the day it must have been much more challenging to convey multiple universes, whereas now, like, we can do it. So, and I think also we've got generations of people that have grown up with the media and
mhm.
videos, and so they're used to, like, faster, like, they don't need as much time to absorb what's going on. They can, like, quickly grasp that they're in another world, what the rules of this world are, and it definitely has opened up quite a bit, for sure.
Definitely, yeah. And what's interesting about, for those of you who haven't seen it, Everything Everywhere All at Once centers around this woman, who's a laundromat owner named Evelyn. Um, I'm forgetting her last name right now off the top of my head, but anyway, she's a laundromat owner, and she has very overwhelmed with, like, the ongoings of her business. She's overwhelmed with the taxes that she has to pay, and she's getting ready to go to the IRS. She also has a party that she's planning for the laundromat that's supposed to
Yeah.
happen tonight and everything. So she's kind of pulled in all these different directions, and in a way, like, her energy, in as somebody who's intuitive, I'm from an intuitive perspective, looking at this character, I'm seeing that, like, even with her in her universe, the reality that she's living right now, because again, this movie deals with the multiverse, parallel realities, all of that stuff. And so it's, in a way, in her current reality, she's very fragmented and kind of scattered, and everything's going on, and a lot of things are calling her attention. And you have her husband, who unbeknownst to her, has divorce papers, is wanting to her, to sit down and have a serious conversation. And of course, she, you know, everywhere, but
She's
was
too busy. I mean, that's the thing. She's too busy. Like we
yeah,
all are, right? Like we all busy ourselves with what doesn't matter. And that really is, what is at the center for her and her lesson, and
like,
learning what does matter. But yeah, she's too busy. She's too
oh,
busy. And all by her own, she, we do it to ourselves. She does it to herself.
right, exactly. And her daughter's also wanting to have a serious conversation with her. And then when they get to when she ends up going to the IRS, her husband, whose name is Wayman, I guess it's a almost a version of Raymond, right? But yeah, anyways,
Yeah, they were very, cheeky in their yeah, Waymond Wang, or I guess Wong, Wang. Yeah.
yeah,
Um I love that they did that.
yeah, exactly. And he, all of a sudden he becomes this different character, and then he opens up an umbrella. They're in the elevator, and he introduces himself as Alpha Waymond, from the Alpha universe. And what I found interesting about that scene is that, with everything going on, she's, like, oh my gosh, I don't have time for this craziness. And it's like, but in life, sometimes things pop up that, we don't expect. And so this is something obviously that would be unexpected for her. And she doesn't know how to deal with it, or react to it.
Well, and what's interesting too, that scene in particular, because right after that, it happens twice where Deirdre, the tax woman,
Yeah,
says, I can't imagine anything more important than this conversation that's happening right now. And
right.
then in the closet, right, Wayman says the same thing to her. He's like, there's nothing more important than like the conversation that we're having right now. And they're two totally different, things, and two totally
Yeah,
different concentrations. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And that's the interesting part of it too, because at that point she's like, when he tells her in the elevator, like, you do this and that in order to get into the closet, so I can explain to you what's going on. You see this like fragment of, it looks like broken glass, of where she's, part of her is in, right in front of Deirdre, the IRS lady, and then another part of her is in the closet. What's happening, and that's when she starts to realize, okay, something is breaking apart right now. Something isn't right. Something,
Her
is
sense of reality was shattered.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's like, it's almost like, something's blooming right now that, she's being forced to deal with and everything. And so it's interesting, because then he explains to her that, Alpha Evelyn, who who's actually, she died some time ago. And I guess Alpha Waymond has her ashes and stuff. And he explains to her that she discovered, all these, this
Verse jumping, the ability to verse jump. Yeah.
exactly. And so, and he explains to her that she's like the most important part of this multiverse, because she's kind of the jumping pad of like all these, where all these different universes split off and everything. And that's, I know that at some point in the movie they said this is the worst universe for you, but I actually disagree with that, because I think it's actually the best one, because things kind of she's, I mean, obviously she's a business owner, and yes, she's, getting, I don't know, like, it just feels to me like,
It's Well, I mean, well, that moment was so. I mean, it's so funny because and therein lies like some of the deeper themes where
mhm,
Evelyn, Wayman says that it's the worst one in the sense that
mhm,
she is not. In all the other ones, she's like succeeded, and she's like,
right,
in her idea of like success, right? But this is the
yeah,
one where that embodies like all her failures. But
mhm,
like
yeah,
that is the universe where we actually really get to grow and learn
oh
and
yeah,
overcome, right? And so it
absolutely,
is the best one,
it is,
and he ultimately means that, that like this is ultimately like the most important one, this one where you're just doing laundry and taxes, like this is it.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It's like the one where she became an actor, and Wayman became really successful himself. He's, I mean, there's that famous line. He says, "In another life, I would I would have enjoyed, owning a laundromat and doing taxes with
Yeah,
you.
where he's like, in another world, I would have loved doing laundry and taxes with you. Yeah. And
Yeah.
like, and that's, to me, like, I think, like, the heart of the story is where it's most spiritual, in at least how I interpret it, is that ultimately, right, like, a deep spiritual truth is that there's just love and fear. Like, that's it. There's two human emotions, love and fear.
Yeah.
And Waymond represents love, and he represents it from the very beginning. In that,
Mhm.
when she goes off into the other universe and comes back, and
Yeah.
Deirdre's like, I'm gonna regret that. I hope I don't regret this. And she's like, but I'm gonna give you another chance. And Evelyn's like, what did you say?
Yeah.
And it doesn't get answered, but, like, she's like, thanks for the cookies, and they have a
Yeah.
smiley face on him, and everything. He puts googly eyes everywhere. He dances with the
Yeah.
guests at the laundromat. This is someone who is very positive, and tries to find the joy in all things, right? And he leads with love.
Yeah.
And Evelyn is existing in a ball of fear. Her fear being she has to prove to her father that
Right.
she made something of her life and didn't make this mistake. But the
Yeah.
truth is that she fears that she made that mistake. And so
Exactly.
this whole journey is her learning that she didn't make a mistake, and that she's the one that gets to decide that for herself, and
Right.
overcome the story that she is battling in her own mind. And as a result, right, she's doing the same thing to her daughter by putting so much pressure on her and not showing her unconditional love.
Yeah.
And so when Wayman says to her in that universe where where she didn't leave with him, and right, there's that great comical scene where she's like, I have to tell my husband how, I saw my life without him, I have to tell him how good it was, like,
Right.
um she what's so great is that in that scene when she does go back later in the film, and it's right when she's learning the lesson,
Mhm.
um the break into, like, three moment almost, where where Wayman says to her, like, I know you think I'm weak, or, like, and your father did, like, you think of me as weak, and you think of yourself as a fighter, but he talks about how, um you know being, and it's intercut,
Yeah.
intercut with, like, the version of him saying, like, what are we doing? I know you're scared and confused, but I don't know what's going on either. I just know we have to be kind, and so he always is choosing love. And in
Yeah.
the end, that's what she chooses when she goes up the staircase.
Yeah.
And she uses love on everyone, and rather than hurting them. um and so that ultimately is where, like, the the spiritual nature of it is, for me, I think, is in that lesson of love over fear.
Absolutely. And also learning to let go too. I mean, I really feel like there was a surrender that, because again, you have,
Huge.
what was it, the everything bagel that was like the
Yes.
black everything. And so there was like a surrendering for her where, and you could tell that it was also going on in different aspects too, like where she was in the laundromat and she was just like, there was a part of her that was probably just like, fuck it, it's, I'm and then decided, what was it I was going to say, yeah, I mean, there's like there's freedom in surrendering too, and like,
100%.
and I know that like we're told in life, okay, you need to let this go, you need to let this go, but what does that really mean? I think sometimes, we're told these things by, the people around us, that whether they raised us or just like our peers and everything, and then we have to think, well, what does that mean? It's just like saying bake a cake, but you don't have the
Right.
rest. And so that's what I found interesting too is she just kind of, she deep down, obviously she loves her family and she wants what's best for them, but I think that, yeah, that you're right, she was surrendering that fear,
Yeah.
yeah.
And she says to her dad, like, it's okay, I don't need you to, because I do.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I love my life, like, I don't need your approval of it, basically. And, like, and that, ultimately is, letting go of the idea of what you thought it should look like. And that is, like, one of the hugest, I think anyone who is a spiritual person,
Yeah.
right? There's Heather and I have been talking about it lately. There's that David Bowie quote, religion is for people who fear hell, and spirituality is for people who've been
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
People who have surrendered that greatly. That's they've encountered their deepest fears, their deepest wounds. Therefore, they have been to hell and have come back.
Yeah.
Um, and so yeah, and so we know like those lessons are those deeply, deeply spiritual lessons. Yeah, a deep surrender is great. It's a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's interesting about what was I gonna say? Something about with the surrendering part. Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, it's definitely. I think that also society wise, like I know with me, there's always a lot of noise around us anyway, and especially when it comes to wanting to please the people around us, whether it's our parents or whether it's like family member, friends, or whatever. I mean, at some point we have to like bring it back to ourselves and look at and really explore those feelings. I really feel
Yeah,
like
where's it coming from?
right.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, I mean, that's something I know I can personally relate to, with her and her father, like I can see, parts of my life with me, my parents and I, and what was and what is expected of me, and in taking that and just really
And learning
understand.
though that it's like a pattern,
Yeah.
like ultimately, like once you recognize that people are treating you the way they treat themselves,
Yes.
you
Yeah.
really start, to really recognize like, oh, like, because you said
Yeah.
these certain expectations, right? Like parental expectations is a huge one that we all feel. Um, but like I know for me, I didn't live up to any of the expectations my mother had for me, and for a while there was a lot of pain because of that. And once I sort of you know really emerged and stood in my power of like who I am and the life that I have, and like literally now like she doesn't have that over me, and I think she actually
Hmm.
looks to me almost in more with more reverence, more like, oh, like, yeah. So
Exactly. Yeah, and it's interesting too because I also like this also reminds me of a scene from a show that I watched. Have you ever seen Cobra Kai?
I have not. I mean, I know the show, but I haven't watched it,
Oh,
unfortunately.
it's like kind of the sequel TV series to the Karate Kid.
Karate Kid. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm a huge Karate Kid fan, and it's interesting because like that series, like I was kind of late to the game, watching those movies and stuff. Like I've watched them in maybe the last 10 years all the way through, and I didn't realize Cobra Kai existed until I checked Netflix and stuff. And then I mean, it's interesting because on Netflix right now, there's, you know, a series is lucky to even get 2 seasons tops if it's luck, if they'll let them. But this show had 6 seasons. I mean, it started off on YouTube, and I think they brought it to Netflix. And one of the things that the character of Johnny Lawrence, who was the rival in the first Karate Kid film,
Yeah. Hmm.
he told what is his name, Daniel Larusso's daughter Samantha. He told her, because he's trying to teach her karate in one of the scenes, and I think it was like the second season or first season. And he says, I want you guys all to jump, like across the roof, like jump from this end to that end. And she was like, no, I'm not going to do that. She says, my dad wouldn't want me to do that. And he says, you know what, if I did everything my parents wanted me to do, I'd be sitting in an office right now wearing a suit and tie and stuff.
Yeah.
But like I don't want to, that's not what I'm going to do. So he says, think about that. So he told her, and at some point she's like, you know what, you're right. And so she gets a running start, and she runs and she jumps over and onto the roof. And so it kind of reminds me of that a little bit, like
Yeah.
learning to separate. This is the thing that Evelyn did too, bringing it
Yeah.
back to this movie. Evelyn not only accepted herself and accepted that she needs to be proud of herself and that she is proud of herself. There is a point that I really feel like she's like, okay, I'm separating my energy from my father's energy. I'm separating my energy from everybody else's, and I'm going to come back to myself here, but not in a way where I'm scattered. It's like I'm coming back to that center point, and
Yeah.
for everything where there's not a bunch of noise in my field here. Like I have
Yeah,
to.
she opened her heart, her heart was closed. She wasn't loving herself, and
Yeah.
she wasn't allowing love in. She literally was rejecting it at every turn. Um and yeah, and she opened her heart to herself and said, and like allowed herself to love her life,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know. And there's the beautiful then montage where, you know, that one of my favorite moments in the film, and we were talking at the beginning that we rewatched it, I didn't quite get, I'm like right at the part, it's just about there, where
Yeah.
where she says, you know, even in a universe where we have hot dog, there's always something to love. Like even in a universe where we have hot dogs for fingers, we get really good at using our feet,
That's
you
right.
know. And so it's like just this, you know, deep recognition that like, you know,
Mhm,
everything is what we perceive, like whatever
mhm.
our perception of it is. Like we
Yeah,
don't have to label things as bad or failure, or you know what I mean, we
right.
can just label them as that's not my path, or
Yeah.
you know, like, you know, yeah, this is not always what life is not always what I thought it might look like.
Mhm.
And man, what wonderful little nuggets
Yeah,
of you know, surprise, what little surprises we get to find, and whatever, it's all just how we label it, how we
right.
perceive it.
All right. Looks like we've got somebody coming into the room here. I wasn't sure if anybody was going to join the live, and I figured, you know what, it's okay if this just is like a podcast recording too and stuff.
Hmm.
Yeah, but it's very interesting. Okay, that last what was it? The very last thing you just said. Can you repeat it?
About the being, yeah, just like the, you know, that great moment in the film where she's like, even in a world where we have hot dogs for fingers, we get really good at using our feet.
Exactly. Yeah, which yeah, I mean that's the thing. It's like you find it's almost it almost speaks to innovating things too. You know, when you're innovating, like you know, you use like when we're so used to using one tool for something, and we don't think, oh, we can actually there's a different way to do this too, and everything.
Yes. Well, that's why
That's,
they like for instance, left-handed people, right, are supposed to be really creative. And the
yeah,
reason you know, left-handed people are creative is that the world is built for right-handed people. And so
right.
left-handed people in every instance, you know, of their lives are
Mhm.
finding a way to make it work for them, you
Yeah,
know. And so like, you know, you build that foundation of that.
yeah,
And that's like the beautiful thing, like with everything everywhere too, is like the recognition that there's a universe somewhere where Deirdre and Evelyn are in a lesbian relationship. You know,
right.
you know, there's a universe where, you know, like to find like all those different universes and recognize that at the end of the day,
Mhm.
um, if you lead with love and you're vulnerable, like all your problems can really go away, you know?
Yeah, yeah, and there's a lot of truth in that film for that and everything. You know, it's leading with love. I think that yeah, I mean that's the thing about leading with love. It expands your energy and it lightens you up, and that's the thing.
Yes.
That's also a spiritual you know it's also a spiritual lesson here too, like with that letting go you actually offload a lot of a lot of baggage, a lot of energetic and emotional baggage and everything. I think that that's a very important lesson for the collective as well, you know. And there I think that there's so much I think it resonated with a lot of people, you know, just with this movie, you know, existing and everything. And
Yeah.
there's a reason why, you know, the academy I was kind of surprised that the you know, I don't know, it seems I'm not sure what the qualifications for getting a movie, you know, nominated for an academy award are, but it seems like it really spoke to a lot of people and
Yeah.
everything.
To me, it had really like, you know, what ended up happening was it was one of those sleeper hits where it came out and people were going to see it, and it was word of mouth, and people were liking it and telling other people to see it. And so it ended up stretching. It had like over 4 months in theaters, which is unheard of these days. You know,
Right.
it was almost like literally like Titanic in that way, which is the other
Yeah.
one I told you I could talk about spiritually. But
Oh,
like
sure. Yeah.
it really, Titanic was the same thing. They thought it was going to be a total flop that first weekend. James Cameron was like, oh my god, you know, because he like they
Yeah.
had to keep asking for more money, like, and they thought for sure, oh my god, it's going to tank, you know. But people loved it and they kept talking about it. And
Yeah.
you know, and both of the films actually have a similar theme, right, which is
Mhm.
freedom, ultimately freedom from our own self-imposed ideas or not. But in this case, in Evelyn's case, it was her self-imposed ideas, but they were imposed by her father.
Right.
Um, and it's interesting, like with the daughter, you know, because that she put everything on a bagel, right?
Yeah.
you know, she was a nihilist. She believed none of it mattered because she saw all of
Yeah.
it, because all she's asking for, that pain of, Evelyn doesn't realize that in
Hmm.
hiding the truth from her father, that Becky is Joy's partner, her girlfriend, that's denying, that's basically sending the message to Joy that, like, it's not acceptable because it
Yeah.
doesn't fit in within what this man wants to see from me, and
Right.
therefore, like, it can't, you know, we're not going to go there, you know.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And so getting to heal that,
Mhm.
you know, I mean, that's the center point for all of it, is ultimately the daughter relationship with, you know,
With
Evelyn
Taylor.
and his daughter. Yeah.
Oh yeah, with Evelyn and Joy and
Joy.
everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I remember like kind of towards the end, she was saying she thought that Evelyn thought that Joju Tupaki, who was Joy, the alpha version of Joy, she thought that she was wanting to kill her, but she was actually just wanting her to see, what she saw,
Yes.
and I think that's like the ultimate.
Which is the root of it, which is you're living in a universe of fear, and it's throwing all these other universes into chaos.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, literally, and that makes so much sense, right? Because people react out of fear, they don't respond.
Yeah,
Um, and so, of course, it would send, you know, the universe totally out of whack. Every other universe was grappling with that, and you saw, like, it was chaos, and all those, you know, when she went on her, like, rampage, right?
right.
um that's how it was in all the worlds, versus, you know, once she let the love back in, and it healed all of them.
Yeah,
Yeah. Just such a beautiful movie, such a beautiful movie.
absolutely. Yeah, and trying to think, there was something else I wanted to bring up about this film, and like just the whole idea of like but besides, and I don't like I don't really include, I guess, Marvel in this, because that's, I guess, because I mean, yeah, there's different films, there's different movies and stuff that follow like the multiverse pattern, but
Mhm.
what I really like about this is it did remind me of another show called The OA. Have you ever seen that?
Which show?
It's called The OA. It lasted
Mhm.
two seasons on Netflix. It is so good. It is probably my favorite television show of all time, and that takes place, this woman that, it starts off with this woman that is found after being held captive for about 7 years, and she was blind before, and now she's not blind anymore, and so she goes into like why that is and everything, and it deals with the themes of what is it, dreams, parallel realities, near death experiences. It's really fascinating and stuff,
I love near death experiences. I'm a huge fan of all that. Yeah.
sure, and I would like to see more films, like that, and like everything everywhere all at once, because they really explore like this deeper reality, this deeper, existence, or these themes we don't know that exist and everything,
Yeah.
and it's interesting because one of the goals with this podcast is to really, dive deep into the deepest levels of storytelling. There's this woman that was, what is it called, a hypnotherapist. She wasn't, a psychic or intuitive, but I don't know. Have you ever heard of Dolores Cannon?
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so one of the things that is described about her is that she chose to go into like the deepest levels of trance that one could go, instead of it just being about trying to get somebody to stop smoking and all that, like where a lot of hypnotherapists don't want to go too deep down. She decided, okay, I'm going to go deeper and deeper and deeper to see where that leads me, and
Yeah.
my clients, and she really started to go past those levels and go into the people having their past lives surface, like past versions of a person's self came up, and then there was also like these entities or beings that would come through different people, that were like
Mhm.
the same people or same entities that would come
Same,
through.
yeah, same energies. I mean, ultimately, like,
Yeah,
right, like, ultimately, if there's one consciousness, then it fragments off, and so but it's just going to be energetic, you know. Yeah.
exactly. And so what's interesting is that there was a lot of discoveries that she made about the nature of the universe through that way and
Right.
everything. And I really feel like with storytelling, we talk about how we learn about how, you have like, what was it, Freud and Carl Jung, and how Carl Jung, for example, and I still have a lot to learn about Carl Jung, but there's like different archetypes, that he discovered, and I think Joseph Campbell, who was, oh gosh,
He was the hero's journey dude.
here's
Yeah.
exact talked about how, there's all these different, archetypes, themes and stuff in the story, the hero's journey, but it's not just the hero's journey. There's different journeys, that there's many different types of structures, that stories can take. And really they all come back to this universal, like what is the meaning of existence? I think that
Right. I mean, and I mean, as long as it's a human truth, there's like a
yeah,
few human truths, right? And like, and I do think that that almost all stories touch on one of them, right? And I've worked as a script consult for 8 years, and so I read so many screenplays, and so one of the things that is always interesting to me that I'm always like trying to talk to my clients or students about is, that there's the story and then there's like what the story's really about, you
right,
know? Um, like, for instance, like we've been talking about the deeper themes of everything everywhere all at once. Like on the surface, you could be like, oh yeah, it's about like a tax lady and like, a guy visits her from another world and like together they take down this like
yeah,
villain and like in time to like save her like tax appointment, like in her current reality. Like you could like say it that way. Or you can say, right, that it's about a woman who is too busy and she's shut herself off to love, and she's not present and she's not receiving love, nor is she giving it, and um as a
exactly,
result of that, it's thrown the universe off whack, like out of whack, and she goes on a journey and a quest to overcome the reason why, like ultimately it's about her coming to terms with her life and learning, giving herself permission to love it, giving herself permission to love her life, um
exactly,
and letting go of the story, right? So every that was put there by like that thing. Oh, if I didn't leave, my dad is right. If I didn't leave, if I would have stayed behind and never came with Waymond, like my life would have been better. Like that story. That's not true,
right,
You wouldn't have joy, number one. And I just love that her name is Joy. Like the whole time too. She's always saying, my joy, your
right,
joy. Literally, like your daughter is your joy,
yeah,
Evelyn. And so like there's just so much there, and so that, like, that, and every story, specifically in the medium of film,
yeah,
is going to have a protagonist that has a goal, and they also have a false belief, right? And the false belief at the beginning is like um and I'll just throw it out about Titanic because it's so easy to do, but like, Rose, right, is the protagonist, and Rose feels like she is being taken to America in chains
right,
because her mom has all these expectations similarly, right?
yeah,
That like, we have this name, like you need to marry this guy because we need money. We need money. We need this first class status. We don't want to lose this.
yeah,
And Rose doesn't want that. Rose wants is freedom. The theme of Titanic is freedom,
right,
and her false belief about it is like, in a story all characters constellate around the same theme. Everybody wants freedom, but their ideas about how to get it are different. And
definitely,
so Rose is like, I want to, or to me, she believes that killing herself is the solution. So
hmm,
she tries to jump off the side of the ship. That's literally what she does. And in
right,
that moment, Jack saves her, and then
yeah,
she slips. Right, she actually slips, and he pulls her up.
yeah,
Um, and so and that's sort of the catch moment. Every film has a moment, that break into two, where the character gets what they want, but it comes with a catch. She
yeah,
slipped and it was a literal catch, right? And then the catch ultimately is that he comes to dinner
hmm,
with all the rich people,
yeah,
and they're in first class, and but before that, or it's actually after that, I think, but
mhm,
he talks about how, what his um or no, it is before that. She talks, she's like, oh, she kind of looks down on him, but then she's like, what are you drawing? And sees that he draws naked French women, right? Which is such a great metaphor for freedom, number
Yeah,
one. um,
and I think
and so,
that's that draw me like one of your French girls comes from, right? Or I don't.
yeah, exactly. Yes, it does. It does.
Yeah.
And so anyway, so that's the whole point of the film, is that Rose wants freedom. She yearns for freedom.
Uh-huh.
Everybody wants freedom. But, her mother believes freedom comes from, maintaining that first class status.
Mhm.
Cal, the man she's supposed to marry, comes from, he believes money will buy him freedom. He literally tries later to buy his way onto a lifeboat. And
Yeah.
the guy says, your money won't save you now.
Yeah.
Um, to the point though that through Jack, through living freely with him those 48 hours on, is such a great character arc, because in 48 hours she less than she went from trying to hurl herself off an end of the ship to literally clinging for her life on that same side of the ship. You know what I mean? And so yeah, and so like, and then so a lot of people will watch that movie and be like, oh, it's so lame, like why this, why that? And I'm like, no, it's perfect actually. If you recognize what it's really about, it's really about freedom, and it's about the fact that money can't buy you freedom. And that's
Right.
why everyone's always like, why did she hold on to the necklace? Why did she could have made so much money from that necklace? And I'm like, because it was a symbol of, like, we're told that
Yeah.
an insurance policy was taken out on that necklace. So if
Yeah.
she had turned it in, she would have been giving up her false identity that allowed her the freedom, and then it
Right.
would have disproven the thesis that, so like her dropping it in the ocean after Bill Paxton's character, who'd been looking for it his whole life, that he believed that kind of payday was going to bring him freedom. Through Rose's story, he realizes that that doesn't buy you freedom, man, and so he lets it go, and so she drops it, and it's beautiful, it's perfect. But that's what Titanic's really about, and everybody's like, oh, it's about the ship, and he totally could have lived, and no, it's about freedom, and she got exactly what she wanted,
And yeah, and I like that. And interesting because she talked about, she talked to Bill Paxton in that whole crew about how what the story was of some of these other people, like afterwards, because what was it, the Bill, what was his name, Billy, was it the actor that played the guy that she was supposed to be married to?
Yeah, Billy Zane.
Billy,
Yeah,
Billy Zane, yeah.
he played, yeah, Cal was the character's name. Yeah,
Yeah, Cal, because didn't he lose everything in the stock market
killed
crash?
himself. Yeah, yep,
So
exactly.
yeah, so that was something that, again, it just goes to show money can't buy you freedom and everything, and he lost it all. And then the same thing with I think, wasn't it, because it's been a while since I've seen the movie, but she stopped talking to her mother after the Titanic, right?
Yeah, no, no, no. Her mom, I mean, there's a beautiful reckoning moment with her
Uh-huh.
mom on that boat out in the middle of nowhere, when on the lifeboat. She's like on the lifeboat looking out at the sinking ship, and she doesn't need any lines. It's just literally like this moment of reckoning in her eyes of like, dear God, like everything, my daughter, I just left behind my daughter on a ship.
Yeah.
Everything that I valued, this money, this opulence, like all of it is literally like
Mhm.
none of it was going to save me. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like none of it was going to save me. And so like um like those are the deeper themes, and the trick is always to wrap it up in a fun and engaging plot, but have those deeper, because ultimately we all crave freedom, we all crave love, we all
right.
crave acceptance, um those are the real things that almost every story is about.
Exactly. One of my it's interesting you say that too, because it leads me into one of my another favorite film of mine, called, Ghost, from
Mhm.
1990.
Yeah. Mhm.
The very ending, and maybe we can do a podcast on that at some point, because like that one's like chocked full of spiritual,
Absolutely.
and what I love about the ending, and it gets me, it makes me cry every single time I watch it, where um you know um Bill, Patrick Swayze's character says, "It's amazing, Molly, the love inside, you take it with you."
Exactly. Oh, I just got chills. Exactly. And
Yeah.
like, and it's so funny because somebody had just said something rude to me about like how, because I'm, you see my content, so I'm like a huge Madonna fan. Somebody was trying to like be rude to me, and they had said like, Madonna doesn't care about you. And I just was like, it doesn't matter. And like, and it made me think of like it made me think of there's in the film adaptation. I don't
Yeah.
know if you've ever seen it, but
Yeah.
there's like two Nick there's like two brothers, you know,
Well,
Nicolas Cage two plays the two
yeah,
versions of Charlie Kaufman, but it's like him and a twin brother in the movie.
yeah,
And and the one character is all about like he just like goes with it, you know, he's in flow. So he like is a much happier human being, right? But
yeah,
he like says this line where he's like, I can love who I want.
yeah,
Like love is like for you, love the love is yours, you know, like I can love who I want. Like you get to, yes, it gets to go with you, like in Ghosts. Like you never need to give that over to anyone. Like
right.
regardless of whether someone's gone, you get to have it always.
Yeah, and it also speaks to what you were saying about that is it made me think of like when people put celebrities up on pedestals, and that's not to say you're doing that with
Oh
Madonna.
no, no, but I mean I do, and I did, but I have healthy boundaries with it too, even though you wouldn't think I do,
Yeah.
but I
Oh yeah,
do.
yeah, yeah. It's funny because the way you like Madonna, I feel the same way about Jennifer Tilly, for example. She's
Okay,
my favorite actresses and stuff, and one of the things that I've also discovered when it comes to that is that there's certain aspects about these people that are already a part of ourselves, like
exactly.
yeah, one of the things that I really love about her, and I try not to put her up on a pedestal or anything, but I do love the fact that she has this she gets to travel all over the world. She has she's her personality is just really fun, and again, this is just like what I've seen publicly, what she's put
Sure,
out and everything, and it just that goes for everybody else, because we obviously if we don't know them as people, like we're not going to know what goes on, and not only
right,
that, I wouldn't want to that's not something I would want to like pry into or whatever, like but anyways, the point I'm making about that is that it's important to explore, like, okay, why do I feel this, like, why do I feel drawn to this individual? What is it about me? What do I see with this a part of myself that this person seems to embody as well? That's I
exactly.
Yeah, and it's interesting because it's like, to me, it's they're muses to us. Madonna's,
Yeah.
and just like how Jennifer
And
Tilly.
like we get to in many ways like they speak to our heart and soul, where it's like we get to almost like live through them, you know, because we do
Right.
recognize such a part of self in them. I actually did just recently I put me and Madonna in the pattern as friends. And it said like, you know, that Madonna has qualities that make you feel incredibly at home, most at home within yourself. And I'm like
Right.
100%. And like and you know, and so that's that connection and that like draw. And I feel like you know, like you said, like, yeah, there's like, we never want to like put anyone on a pedestal. And yet
Yeah.
it's also okay to recognize like self in someone.
Right.
And you know, and I mean that Heather always says about the movies, you know, for those listening, my wife always says about the
Yeah.
movies, like, you know, we go to the movies to see ourselves, you know, we
Right.
experience emotional catharsis, we relate to the stories, you know, with Everything Everywhere All at Once. I absolutely related on a huge level because my mom like disowned me when I came out as gay for a while. You know, things are better now, thank you, but like and so to watch that mother daughter relationship be fractured, and just that, and you know, Joy, Stephanie Shu's character, just, you know, desperate for just acknowledgement and acceptance, just like acknowledge who I am, just like
Right.
acknowledge it. You keep saying it's fine, but like you're not really embracing me for all that I am, loving me for all that I am.
Yeah.
You know, and so I deeply related to that for sure. And that's what's so beautiful about storytelling, and film gets to do it on so many levels because it's we hear it, we see it, you know, we feel it. Music is there, all the vibrations all
Yeah.
together.
It's movement. It moves us, and
Yes.
that's another thing. Like, and this is why I highly suggest you watch the OA, because they talk about movements too, which is like in the TV series, when the character of a Prairie, she also calls herself the OA, which stands for Original Angel, which I think is
Mm,
for the original soul, the higher self.
absolutely. Yeah. Higher
Yeah,
self.
yeah, exactly. So she talks about oh gosh, what were we saying? The whole thing. Okay, what was the last thing you were saying? Because like it just left my mind.
Just about deeply relating to storytelling, and you were talking about
Yeah.
movement, how the OA talks about movement. Yeah.
She was talking about or so there's what was that? There's Sia. You know how she's a singer and she has that girl that does the dancing, the movements, and all of her music videos and stuff. So the person, the guy, I forgot his name, but the choreographer for that for for those music videos, he actually created these movements, which are a series of um like movements, like almost like dance moves, interpretive dance moves that they do. And it takes five people to open up a portal into a different universe and stuff. It is really fascinating. And
Yeah, I love that.
yeah, and so Britt Marling and her writing partner Zalbat Mongolish, they also did another film called, or another TV show. They've done other films. Like there's another one called Another Earth, where this girl that's about to graduate college or has graduated college gets into an accident and ruins a man's life because she ends up killing on accident his wife and child and stuff. And then when she gets out like a couple of years later, she goes to his house. She's going to apologize, but instead she's like cleaned up his place or something like that. And anyways, that's one of the first films I saw Britt Marling's, and she explores like all these deeper themes as well. And so yeah, as far as
I
the
definitely will check it out. It sounds right up my alley, especially with the past life stuff. I mean, I'm constantly fascinated. Just the other day, I saw like a post, and I was like, Heather, did you hear there was a boy who remembered being murdered in his past life, and authorities went and checked the spot, and they found the body. Like, I mean, I'm just like, I love that shit so much.
Oh yeah, and I watched this show called Ghost Inside My Child. I see like episodes of it on YouTube, and
Oh,
it's
amazing.
yeah, it's fascinating because it's all these kids that like remember their past lives. And
And as they get older, it goes away, and that's so fascinating too.
exactly, and then sometimes they show them as like the age they're at right now or the age they were at like 10 years ago or something like that, and they say, hey, I'm so and so, I'm whatever age, and then they talk about like from their perspective what they see. And then there's been some parts of those episodes they go ahead and like they explore, they go and them and their parents, they go to the place where they had the past life and they discover something that actually turns out to be true, which is very fun.
Yeah. Oh, it's so fascinating. Yeah, there was like that one special on Netflix too that went into it. That did like yeah, that touched on it. There was like the guy who was like the kid who said that he was like this actor who like, and he was deeply afraid of boats or something. Like he saw pictures of like this famous actor and was like, that used to be my friend. And
Yeah,
like something like that. And then he was like deathly afraid of, he left the industry to, or he was deathly afraid of boats. And they found out that the guy had like a best friend who was an actor who, in that movie with him, who like joined the Navy when the US went to World War II,
right.
and died like on the ship. And so the family like wanted to meet the kid. I'm butchering it because it's been
Oh
years since I've seen this, but it was something like that. And they
yeah,
like went, and the poor kid though at that point was like 8 or 9, like getting older, like, and to where he like didn't really remember some of those memories anymore. And like, but it just makes you think of like, like a fresh consciousness that hasn't been, there's no imprint from this version, this life yet hasn't
yeah,
made its imprint. Of course, there's going to be kind of like a portal to like, the grand conscious, the memories of the past,
yeah,
all the memories that are out there.
yeah. It's interesting. Yeah, yeah, like what was I was gonna say something. I forgot.
No
There's like all these different thoughts I'm having, and I'm just like, like, yeah,
worries. I can geek out about this stuff all day. So I'm just like, yeah, no, totally. Like my brain, yeah.
totally, yeah. But going back to what you were saying about how like we see different, we see part of ourselves in different people and stuff. Your wife Heather Matarazzo is one of those. Like I first saw her in the movie, Welcome to the Dollhouse, as a lot
As
of
we all did. Yeah.
yeah. It's interesting the way that she portrayed the character, and just like I absolutely saw myself in that character, because that was basically me in elementary and junior high school and everything.
Totally. I
Yeah.
mean, it's interesting on that note, like two things.
Yeah.
the first time I saw her, I had that thought too. I had brown hair and glasses in elementary school. Yeah, and my hair was really dark. You can't really tell because I'm getting old. So,
Oh,
but my roots are used to be very, very dark. My dad's side of the family has like black hair.
yeah,
Um, and I had braces and, just like, and so, and Dawn Weeder didn't have braces, but crooked teeth, whatever, like crooked teeth. And, I remember being at Blockbuster Video and seeing the cover of the movie, the VHS for Welcome to the Dollhouse, and I felt so seen. Like I have that moment, like I felt seen.
yeah,
Um, and so it's interesting, now like being married to her, like when people come up to her, you can always tell almost when they approach
mm,
which film it was that they saw themselves in, and and I always love the people who it was Welcome to the Dollhouse. Like,
yeah.
no shade to Princess Diaries. Like, I just didn't grow up with Princess Diaries, and so it wasn't my thing. There's been very sweet people who saw themselves in her, in those films, in that film for sure. Very wonderful people. But like when it's a Welcome to the Dollhouse person, I know that's like my people,
Yeah, and something that, Todd Solondz did, I mean, and it wasn't just him, but everybody that was a part of that movie, I mean, they really touched on, yeah, and at some point, maybe you, me, and Heather can do a podcast about it if you guys are.
Super fun.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting because there absolutely is some spiritual, there's that movie is like rich with spiritual lessons, I think. And what's interesting to me is that there's that quote that you've probably heard of this, that it made me think like with Dawn, if it goes like before you diagnose yourself with low self-esteem, make sure you are not in fact just surrounded by assholes.
Yes, exactly. 100%. And that
Yeah.
that literally is, I think, what is so
Mhm.
redeeming about Dawn is that she's treated that way, but she's still like dresses up cute to try to, get Steve. She still like goes and searches for her sister. Like, the things that she does, or I guess is that a dream? I'm forgetting. Yeah, she has a
Oh,
dream.
I think it's a dream. Yeah, like and then she
But
imagines
she
like
does really go and then she comes back and they found
yeah,
her and nobody even knew she was gone, right?
right, right,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah, yeah. It's been a minute since I've seen it, but yeah, and yeah, and there's just I'll tell you that's like a spiritual thing that's crazy. Like when Heather and I like met, people are always like, "What? How'd you guys meet? Like whatever." Like we met on a little film. We like worked together for several weeks, and it was the last day of filming. We were rehearsing a scene and I like looked over the director's shoulder at Heather sitting in this car, and like our eyes locked and time stood still. Like time stood still. And like
Wow.
after she was like, "Do you remember like this like moment?" And she's like, "Do you know when that what?" I was like, "Yeah, when you were sitting in the car." She's like, "Yes." And like we both like knew. It was so crazy. Like weeks later, not weeks, days later, we had that conversation. But um talk about like recognition in a
Yeah.
moment. But yeah, just that film is a classic. It's just so wonderful, like, and I related so deeply to like, the scene of like they're panning across the family like on the couch laughing watching something on TV. They're like ha ha ha, and then they, it's like ha ha ha, ha, and then it's just Dawn like, and I'm just like I relate so hard.
Yeah, it's interesting because with that, like I feel like that was I mean there was a lot of dark shit. I think that Todd Solondz, I'm not even sure exactly how you.
I think that's right, Salons. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't see any of the other. I haven't seen any of the other films besides like Palindromes, which honestly I didn't really like personally like really like or connect with that one because Dawn was gone by that point. I guess spoiler alert. I mean, in that film, Todd basically had her commit suicide, which honestly did not resonate with me. Like I don't feel
Well,
like
then
that.
I haven't seen Wiener Dog, but I'm curious. I'm gonna have to see it.
Yeah, Wiener Dog, even if you just see the scene with what's his name? Oh gosh, Kieran Culkin. I mean, they're like three individual stories. Even if you just see that specific one, I mean, I do think that Greta Gerwig absolutely brings a different aspect to Dawn. I mean, I can see that. she could have been, you know, the kid too and everything. But what's interesting about that is that, you know, I felt like, you know, when in that story, like, and I won't spoil it really, but like, you know, she really, like, she definitely reconnected with Brandon in a different way as an adult, as opposed
Interesting.
to,
Interesting.
yeah,
Okay. Yeah, I mean, obviously because my loyalty is with my wife, I haven't seen it for that reason. You know what? I saw that it's at the library, so I can rent it and not give, and
oh,
not that I don't support Todd Solondz. I don't know him. Great filmmaker. I love
right,
Welcome to Dollhouse, and I did just watch Happiness for the first
yeah,
time ever.
yeah,
And I think it is a fabulous film. So I
oh
do recommend Happiness. Yeah, I just saw it.
yeah,
Um,
check that
but yeah,
out.
but I wasn't ready to let go of My Love as Dawn, so I haven't seen Wiener
You
Dog,
know,
but I do want to. Like I do, I'm curious. I'm
yeah.
curious.
I know I read, I think back when Heather M was on Twitter, I know that I kind of figured you guys hadn't seen that, and I only watched it mostly for, you know, because I was curious to know like how that character, you know, appeared. And
Right. Yeah, like what happened? Yeah.
I'm with you. I'm 100% loyal to you and Heather on that one.
No, I mean, listen, and I love, who doesn't love Greta Gerwig? We all do. Everybody loves Greta.
Yeah,
But yeah, I just meant like I wasn't ready to let go of My Love as Dawn. But I am curious about the character myself, and I'm sure she would be too.
definitely.
So
Yeah,
maybe I'll grab it. Maybe I'll grab it at the library.
for sure. Yeah. About the library, because like not only can you rent like DVDs and films and stuff from over there. I think there a lot of libraries now have like the digital
Yeah, they do. Hmm.
yeah, like I think you have to, like, depending on like how your local library does it. I think with mine, here, like in Anchorage, we have what's called the Lusac Library. It's this huge library. I think it's the biggest one in Alaska. And yeah, you can. There used to be a section upstairs where you could rent all these movies, but my mom, who gets a lot of the, you know, rents a lot of the books and everything, she rented a lot of the ebooks. I think that they now have like a digital library that you can download the movies for, and then like it disappears after a certain time
Oh
and
yeah,
everything.
yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just joined. I just joined the library here, um, specifically like to get books and that kind of thing. And so I just have been grabbing DVDs from there. But Heather has been renting off of like the library
Yeah.
catalogs for years. Not since we've been here, but in LA she was doing that.
Oh, that's neat.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so important to have libraries, you know, I mean, for all sorts of
Yes. For
stuff.
literally like
Yeah.
like our printer wasn't working and I said to Heather, I'm like, "Oh, I can print it at the library." I like, and it's way cheap going to be way cheaper than FedEx, Kinko's. If it's just like a random snafu, otherwise we'll get a new one. But yeah,
Right.
like little things like that. And I just saw this library has like a film club that meets once a month. I'm like, "Oh my God, I totally want to do their film club."
Hey.
But libraries are great.
Oh,
Yeah.
for sure. Are you guys in the Detroit area, or what?
Yeah, yeah, we're in Detroit area. Yep.
Yeah. I've never been out there. I had some cousins that lived like a couple towns away from you guys that were in the military and everything.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, and then they moved to San Clemente, you know, because they got stationed somewhere else. I think was this San Clemente? I think that's kind of in between
Yeah,
San
yeah,
Diego.
yeah. That's like a military area. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Hmm.
yeah, I've experienced that. It's been God like 14 years since I've been to Los Angeles. I almost moved there. I actually in 2014 or 2013 2014 I was living in New York City. So, you
Okay.
know, and I know that you know Heather lived. I think she lived near the city, right? Like when
No,
she
she
was.
was in Manhattan at that time. Yeah, she was in Manhattan for 13 years, and then she moved to LA. I think right then at 2014 or 20
Oh.
or 2013 or 2014. I think she was there 2 years
Mhm.
when we did Stuck. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I was in Queens. I was in Astoria for about 8 months, and then for 9 months I was in Jackson Heights and stuff. And I really, you know, having been from Alaska, it's very fascinating like how opposite it is over there.
Hmm.
Concrete jungle, and here like it made me look at Anchorage differently, because when I got
Sure.
everything was spaced out, I was like, "Whoa." Whoa, you know, it's
I
very
feel you. I mean, for years, like, I was from a small town here in Michigan. So Los Angeles was moving there, and I went there at 18 was a, major culture shock, but I loved it. I wanted all that. And
Yeah.
then moving back here, now I want this. I'm so grateful for like the space and the quiet and, and we are close enough to the city. I mean, we're 20 minutes, 20,
Oh,
23
that's
minutes on a bad day, to downtown Detroit. But we were just there today for that little vintage fest. But yeah,
nice.
I it is interesting, and I was in LA for a long time, and it's a wonderful place, but it really has gotten unlivable recently, so I hope
Yeah.
hope it turns over soon.
Yeah, yeah. One of my mentors who I learned, her name's Donna Reese. She is a certified chromatologist, and she taught me how to read with color, like
Oh,
colorative.
cool. I love that.
And she was from, like, she was kind of near Los Angeles, or she was from Los Angeles. She lives in Fort Worth, Texas now, and she one of the things that she was telling me when I was talking to her a couple of years ago about Los Angeles and how much it seems to have changed. She said that Hollywood is moving out of Hollywood, is what
Yeah.
it's. Yeah, because it seems like you've got, you have George, what is it, Atlanta, Georgia, where there's a lot of sound stages. I think it's like cheaper to film there. There's also Vancouver. I know that some of these areas, people
Yeah,
have
New
all.
Mexico. Yeah, and a lot of, even just more now, they're really moving abroad out of LA, and so as a result, like, people are struggling financially, and then the strikes really hit the city hard. And then obviously the devastating fires. And before that was COVID. And, really, like, LA, it was around, I don't know, 2011 or something, when like Snapchat came down from San
Mhm.
Francisco. All these tech companies took residents up in Venice Beach, and it became known as Silicon Beach, and that just like drove prices.
Yeah,
Once that happened, it was a luxury building on every corner, and
right.
nobody could afford to live there anymore, and so they moved to a different neighborhood, and then that it would happen there, and it's almost impossible to escape now there, sadly.
Yeah.
um
The same.
so but I my a piece of my heart will always be there. I mean, I was there half my life, so
Oh, for
yeah.
sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's Seattle. The same thing's happening with Seattle. It used to be like a nice art town. My aunt Susan is a photographer. She's a what is it called? Freelance photographer for several different African American newspapers and stuff. She lives in like the Lake City area, and so for like since 2001 I've been visiting her, since I was like 13 or 14 and stuff. And when I moved there, like I noticed it changed from this, like, artsy town, to what is it called, to, like, I don't know, just like a metropolis area, because Amazon, moved in like
Yeah.
90s. And like the house that she bought, which was a one-story house, she paid like $100,000 for it. Now it's worth like 700,000. It's like,
Yeah, it's
it's
crazy. It
and
really is crazy.
yeah, and she thought about, moving to the south side, because that's where all the work is for her right now.
Mhm.
But she's not ready to move. So
Yeah.
that's her.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting how I think right now, with the film industry, that's what I wanted to go into. And I did a couple of projects when I was living in New York City. Like, one of them was the Batman Chronicles. It was a fan film of, like,
Oh, yeah, yeah. Fan films are fun. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And it was a lot of fun to work on. And what's it I like all the, like, the smaller productions. So I feel like, with the technology that we have now, we can pretty much live anywhere and do,
Yeah.
like even with the podcast that we're doing right now, it's so nice to be able to do that, to not have to go to like a studio somewhere and like record.
Yeah. I mean, it's really crazy to think that you're in Alaska and I'm in Detroit. I
Right.
mean,
Yeah.
um, but
Yeah.
yeah, no, I mean, that was our thinking with moving to Detroit. I'm intent on making films here. I shot a short film in the fall, and slowly but surely we're gathering, and nurturing and creating some community. And so hopefully it works.
Yeah, for sure.
Mhm.
But it used to be like, back, I think in 2010, there was a film that came up here, because they used to have tax incentives here for
Oh,
income.
cool.
Yeah, it was basically called oh yeah, yeah, it was Big Miracles. And then there was this other film called The Frozen Ground.
Mm.
the Frozen Ground actually filmed in my neighborhood that I'm living in right now. This is the house I grew up in and stuff, and so like down the street, I guess. And I was in college at the time when they were filming this stuff, so I wasn't in town. I was in upstate New York somewhere. And what's interesting is, they, I guess the Senate, the state Senate, didn't want Hollywood coming up here or something, so they
Mhm.
just, hey, we're not going to do those tax incentives. But I think it's like them cutting off their nose to spite their face, because they're bringing jobs up here. They're bringing
I
all.
know, yeah, literally. Like we're doing that in Michigan. We're really fighting. We had the tax incentive here for a little while,
Yeah,
and it went away. And then we really thought because it had so much bipartisan support that it was going to pass last year,
yeah,
but just too much was going on, and so it didn't ever. It didn't. They didn't get the hearing scheduled. Like it just didn't. I forget exactly what it was.
yeah,
But it did. It missed a crucial step to being officially voted on, and so.
right.
Um, and so it's almost like back to square one in a way, and it is depressing. And then on the other token of it,
Mhm.
there is this part of me that's like, i kind of I kind of understand the mentality of like yes, it brings jobs, and like
Mhm.
I really feel like it would be so great if there was some kind of threshold where it's like
Right.
no, like millions upon millions of dollar budgets, only because you know I don't know that's just my own bias. I'm just like anti big budget. I
Oh
just
yeah,
feel like, I just feel like creativity gets crushed, and it's just not,
I agree.
we yeah. So I don't know. But either way, I was hoping it would pass in Michigan, and we're not there, so we'll see.
Right.
But
That A24 studio, going back to everything everywhere all at once, A24, is a, from what I understand, like I don't know a lot about it because I still have to do my research on it, but it sounds to me like it's an independent production company,
it
right?
was, yeah, it started that way. Yeah. I mean, it still is, but now they have a ton of money.
Sure, 'cause they're creating some, all this original content and everything, and that's something that this, the industry, just as a whole, just people that want to do this creative work, we need to be able to put that out there, and
Yeah, and we need
yeah,
people that get and understand that. It's these big
mhm,
studios that have been in it forever. They're like archaic, and they don't understand like what the people want, truly. The
exactly,
suits that work for those companies are clueless. Like the fact that and we do get to have these like moments where, we've got like the first couple seasons of White Lotus, like Jennifer
oh
Coolidge
yeah,
got a kind of was finally like, or like Catherine O'Hara finally had her big moment with, Schitt's Creek, and
uh-huh,
we find, and to me it's like if I were a suit, I would have told you dumb fucks years ago, that
yeah,
like people love these people, put them in things, or
exactly,
like the things that they greenlight versus the things they don't is really puzzling, sometimes. And I mean, it's not because they just look at dollars, and really what they look at is, can we make merch? That's like all they care about now.
right,
And it's
exactly,
like, that's not a
yeah,
creative landscape. That's not art. You're taking art out of it and then wondering why the film communities in other countries are thriving, because they are investing in art. Yeah.
right, exactly, and that's what's fascinating, is that I just, it baffles the mind that
It's the spiritual truth here in
yeah,
this very thing, is that at the end of the day, human beings crave authenticity and genuine emotion, and we've been storytelling since the dawn of time, and so we want authentic stories, and Hollywood is continually turning out non-authentic
right.
stories, disingenuous ones. Yeah.
Yeah, there's oh gosh, this platform that just started. It's this guy named producer Patrick. I'm forgetting his last name, but he is like all over TikTok and Instagram, and he's a reality show producer, and he talks about like what we're talking about now, about like how the film industry is really in decline, and he makes like little snippets of like what's going on like currently in the movie, in the film industry, and how it's how it's going and everything. And then there was him and a bunch of other people started this platform called Share. I think it's called Share, like
Mm,
SA. I don't know if you've heard of it or not, but
no.
Yeah, so basically, the goal of it is to have people, is to have like all the filmmakers, actors, directors, producers, all sorts of people come together, to create a project, but also share in the equity of that project. Like so,
Exactly. Oh, yay. I'm so glad. I talk about this with my friends all the time where I'm like, if everyone were involved in the equity, we could shoot things for nothing.
yes,
You know
yeah,
what I'm saying? And then keep, reign in the profit. It's split evenly across the board. And like, this is the way, this is the divine feminine way to do it. You know what I mean? Not the top down patriarchal approach.
yeah,
You know,
and so
and
yeah,
so literally, oh, I'm so glad somebody's doing it. Oh my gosh. I have a friend here who's like, man, like I wish someone would just like I don't have the means to like, I'm
right,
gonna
yeah.
look into this. This is great.
I'm gonna send you the link to it, and also the producer Patrick, and also both the Instagram profiles and stuff. That way you can look it over because it is
Yeah,
really.
please do.
Yeah, because it's in there, and also on that platform, you can raise money too, kind of like how people do on like GoFundMe and everything. You can raise money to for the budget of the film, and people can take part in the like I said, like the equity of it and stuff, and so they're trying. It's a way for the like the artists to take back the creative control
Yes.
and to leave behind this industry because I feel like like going into the future, my feeling about it is it's just going to morph into something else. Yes, I think the current system, the studio system, is probably going to collapse.
Yeah.
Just what I'm seeing. This is coming from like somebody who's not in the film industry, like who's not enmeshed in it or something, but just from what I'm, like studying about and everything about it. I do have a sense. I guess the intuitive in me is, has a sense that it's just going to morph into something else where, the artists have more control over.
100%.
Yeah,
Listen, Pluto and Aquarius, man, we are concerned with the collective right now.
right.
That is what it's about.
Exactly. And and giving the power back to the people and everything. I
Yep.
feel like the way things are right now with everything kind of coming to a head with like, the current administration and plus Elon Musk, it's really like underlying and exposing the nastiness from with, in this country and stuff. And something has to change. And so, yeah, hopefully, and with all the stuff going on with Social Security and all the stuff right now that seems like it's on the verge of collapse. I think that we're just going to have something, different, maybe take its place or
I agree. I think this is going to force. It's going doesn't mean that hardship is not on the way, but
yeah,
I think that what it's going to do is force the hand of reform, from people who do care,
right,
to really get in there and create a system that is for the people, because this one has is not, and it never has been, but it's pretended to be. And
right,
so like, but yeah, I'm with you. I have a deep knowing that like we're not headed to the apocalypse,
right.
and yet I know that I'm not putting my head in the sand and pretending that that everything's going to be bright and shiny either. Like,
Yeah.
we have to, there's going to be ashes and there's going to be dust for us to rise from,
But the
um
phoenix rise,
exactly. So,
yeah,
but yeah, I don't know how long you were planning to go.
yeah.
um I
I,
don't know how long your podcasts are. I just started being like, I could, like I said, I can geek out about this forever.
oh, for,
So
yeah.
I don't want to.
Yeah. I like when it comes to the length, and this is what I was going to say like beforehand, but yeah, like I would say anywhere between like 45 minutes to like an hour and a half or something. So it's whatever, if
Perfect. Yeah, yeah, we were getting close to an hour and a half, so I wanted to be like, oh, I feel like I should mention it, or else, Do you want to
so,
do? Are you going to do a tarot?
yeah, I was going to do a tarot and oracle card. So I've got the inversion tarot, which I'm really a fan of the like the wood cuttings from like the
Oh, cool. Yeah.
1800s. Yeah, there's something very deep and very like esoteric, just like I don't know. It's just, and that's kind of what this also the Oracle of the Radiant Sun is about too. I really
Okay.
and yeah, this one kind of has more of a like also has kind of a kind of similar art to it and everything, and a lot of like art like that. I really
Love that. Yeah, love it.
yeah. So I was gonna see if you had any questions about like that we can read on really quick about like anything you want to know about like everything everywhere all at once,
with any of the characters or the film in general, or
yeah, could be anything about it and stuff. So yeah, I do like a 5 card spread for each of these and stuff.
okay. I mean, I don't know that there's anything. I mean, what I would say is I would love to know more about Deirdre. I feel like if we're gonna, you know what I'm saying? Like I feel like
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
side note on that real quick, because I almost said Becky.
yeah,
But I feel like Becky is just so perfectly encapsulates a mirror for Waymond,
yeah.
that she's really all about love. She's such a positive energy for Joy
Mhm.
throughout the thing, and you see that like her and Waymond like in the background like having a good time, like you know what I mean. I don't know. But yeah, Deirdre, I feel like the supposed antagonist.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, so I got some cards that flipped out, and I'm going to choose some parallel cards of the oracle cards that kind of amplify the meaning. Um, whoop, a lot of cards wanted to come out there.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see, I've got which one's okay. So current energies have to do with the King of Pentacles and extremism. So, which makes sense to me because she's an IRS agent. She's
Yes.
there's a sense of power that she feels. I feel like there's a sense of power that she feels that she has over these people, and I think that when it comes to people's traumas and everything, I feel like she's the person that these characters. It's not just Evelyn, but any character in that universe would go to, and where she would expose them. She would say,
Sure.
"Hey," and that's where the extremism comes in because I feel like there's a domination that she has. She's got a dominant energy, but also there's I think she feels a sense of power, but also there's this feeling of like, this sense of power has come at a cost to me.
Yeah,
That
absolutely. I mean,
yeah.
that's why she's so willing to embrace the cookies, and all
Right.
this stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and not only that, but the counterpart to her, the Jojo Tupaki Alphaverse version of her, where she stapled the what
I
is it?
know. Oh, it's so good. She's
Yeah,
like,
that
"Can you staple something to my
right.
forehead?"
Exactly. That kind of looks like it's interesting how some of the symbolism comes through because there's that, and then there's also this so this what is it called? This raven, or it's probably a crow,
Mhm.
but there is a card in this deck about loss, and it actually has to do with a raven. So I feel like with this, there's definitely a loss of something with her. She's lost. I mean, obviously, we know she lost her marriage.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why she's an extremist. Yeah, perfect
Yeah,
cards.
right. And it's interesting because this is also like serving the divorce papers too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
literally. And also those IRS audit papers,
yeah,
kind of too. It's kind of that two, both documents.
yeah. And it's interesting because the second set of cards here is okay. So we've got the Ace of Swords and the Health card. What I find fascinating about this is okay. This is what she's struggling with right now. Ace of Swords card is typically about decision making, strategizing, using the mind instead of the emotions and everything. Which of course,
Mm.
but
Is
it's
her character.
right, exactly. But I also feel like it is taking a toll on her mental health
Yes.
because this is the mental realm here. So there's some, she's needing to, and there's, what's interesting is this right here
There's
reminds,
something about her, the sun there, like she's being drawn, like she's drawn
yeah,
to them. She keeps forgiving them for a reason. In some way,
yeah,
they are connected. Yes.
exactly. And this also
Yes.
of, Deirdre and Evelyn, like in that other universe too.
Yes, exactly.
Like there's love that actually I think her journey kind of parallels Evelyn's
Oh,
journey,
the same. Yeah, yeah. That's why, like, when they have that moment of humanity between them, where
right?
where they're vulnerable and they admit, like, like when that she drove a car through the neighbor's house when her husband served papers to her. Like they're not so different. She can understand. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, and I feel like this is a moment for Deirdre to replenish herself if she so chooses to, which I
Which she
think she
does. Yeah.
does exactly. And so the hidden influences here that are coming out. So there's Ace of Pentacles and intuition. So this is kind of what what kind of drives her, like in a like it's like the moon side, like you know how we've got the sun rising and moon and everything, like in astrology, and
Hmm.
how moon is like our emotions and what's on the inside and everything. There's kind of a like a it's interesting because it's almost like money, yes, seems to be a motivating factor that kind of like overshadows everything, but also I feel
But
like,
really, it's the intuition because, like we
yeah,
just said, she
yeah,
gives them the benefit of the doubt, gives them
yeah,
another chance, and then after even she treats her that way, she
yeah,
still shows up at the thing, and then is willing, like in some, obviously, if they are in love in another universe, there's a
right.
deeper call, right, an intuition.
Yeah. It's interesting because, like, this, I mean, you can't make this shit up. Look at this. Ace of Pentacles, and then the Ace of Pentacles shows up in this card too.
Yeah, yeah,
There's something there's something that's making its way to the surface for her that she needs to look at herself, she needs to
yeah.
look and really get in touch with her emotions and stuff, and not be so tied to the everyday like material stuff, that because that's the thing I think
The stuff
with.
that doesn't matter.
Right, exactly. Because I think with Deirdre, like the sense that I got about her character, she seems to be tethered to material things and like job security and stuff. And even right
Well, and
now,
her identity of being the best, like she's got those trophies, like you don't get
yeah,
that by like, yeah.
exactly. And what's ironic about those trophies, they kind of look, of course, they look like butt plugs and stuff. Like it's like in a way, there's a feeling of like she needs to take the stick out of her ass, 'cause
Exactly.
and it's like I think that there's a part of her that doesn't even see that, but she's, I think she starts to see it and everything. So that's something that's kind of the hidden influence there. And then what so this next set of cards is what spirit is, you know her guides, or like, just the universe in general. So you've got the Three of Swords, which, typically in, what is it, the wider rate tarot deck, this would have been the heart that had the three swords, going through
Sure,
it,
sure,
right?
sure.
And then we have the Patience. So it's like the universe is trying to tell her, your heart is hurt, your heart is closed off, just like
Yeah. Just like
you.
Evelyn. Yeah.
And you need to be patient with not only your clients and everything, but the people, I mean, but yourself. You need to show yourself patience, and be a bit more open-minded and stuff, and slow yourself down, to where you can look at yourself, because look at what, you need to look at the hurt you're causing, not only other people but yourself and everything.
Hmm.
So it's like you're playing a role in your own suffering. That's
Yes.
and stuff. So yeah, so it's like with this one, yeah, because you look at the queen there, it's like, sorry.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, the queen is like, it's almost like she has an authority over other people, but then there's, these, and it's not just Evelyn and Waymond, but it's like other people, even like, I feel like this is reminiscent of her coworkers or people in her
Oh,
life that
yeah.
they're like, what a bitch, you know. So it's like, she needs to read the room. That's
Yeah.
yeah, that's something that I feel is a spiritual lesson for her. And what's fascinating too is that this is the conclusion card. So these two popped out. So I just decided I'm just gonna go because these feel like they're connected. So we've got the Five of Cups, we got the Seven of Pentacles. And again, I think this connects with the patient card too, because this is also about like making investments. And I
Okay.
I feel like, she's lost a lot. She's lost a lot as a result of how she is. And the charity card comes up. And what happens like towards the end of the movie is,
Yeah.
yeah, she gives Evelyn a little bit of room. So I feel like she needs to learn to be more giving in her energy and everything.
Yeah.
So
Which she does. I mean, these
yeah,
cards are so perfect. These cards are proving how
yeah,
spiritual in nature the movie is.
exactly. Perfect. Yeah. And it's fascinating because with, when it comes to, everything being made of energy, everything being made of vibration, I'm kind of surprised more people. I mean, I have seen bits and pieces of people online doing, tarot card readings on fictional characters, but it makes so much sense, that, depending on the question, you're asked, or what the intention is with these cards and everything, or, if you're just into, reading from intuition, it's just fascinating how what's reflected back. I mean, especially because it's not just excuse me,
I
it's
mean,
not.
her entire character arc was reflected back in those cards. It's perfect.
Yeah, exactly. But also, there's also what goes into it as well is not just her energy as a character, but also what was the what is it called, what was, oh, there's a word, what is, okay, so like with the director and the writer and the creators, like what was their vision of this character and how does it fit into the spiritual lesson that's supposed to come out of here? Because that's the thing, when we're writing, when we're creating, we're channeling, we're
Yeah,
channeling somewhere. And so it makes sense that these cards and our intuition would reflect back, like all the different facets of what's going on. I mean, and just what's perfect about this show or this movie, is deals with parallel realities, like what would have happened if they took this life path and everything. And so like all of that kind of goes into reading different characters and everything. And so I think that would be, I mean, I think it's just fascinating that how accurate the energy is, how accurate these cards are when it comes to this character.
100%. And yeah, that was fascinating.
Yeah,
That was great. And it just made me think about how um we were talking about Evelyn and that version of her, that universe being like the one, right? This like ordinary life where she supposedly had all these failures. But this is
yeah,
the Evelyn that did have it all, right? Because she had Waymond
yeah.
and she got to be proud of herself and her life. And
Right?
you know what I mean? And so she got all of it. And she got her joy.
Yeah,
So
right. And I don't think she divorced. I know she signed the papers, but I do not think she divorced Waymond. I think
oh
that,
no, yeah, no, yeah.
and I think that I have a feeling that like after the movie, they probably went to see a therapist or something, at least an hour a week or something like that, to get, because it sounds like his brother had his own issues and stuff. And so it's just fascinating, how, like, not only what we can personally learn from these characters, but we're all rooting for these characters too, as if they're their own entity, which in a way there might be truth to that too, because I mean I mean the energy comes from somewhere. I mean, this is it's and I think I think Heather Matarazzo brought up in one of her podcast. I don't know if it was a podcast or if she told me this a while back when I did a astrology reading for her. There was a book. I don't know if she recommended it to me or if she brought it up in a podcast, but it's Elizabeth Gilbert's what was it, Big Magic or something like that. There's a
Mhm,
book that I know that she's read it, and I've read it too. And basically, this woman that's the writer of Eat, Pray, Love, and everything.
mhm.
She talked about how the energy. There's sometimes like you get an idea for a movie, you get an idea for like a story, and like if you don't act on it or if you don't use it after a while, it might go to somebody else.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Yeah,
Yeah, 100%.
yeah. So anyway, I think probably um unless you want to do like we probably do maybe one more of these, or maybe we can just maybe do maybe end it here. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, hey, I'm happy to come back and talk more movies. We can totally do more. This is a blast.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
I absolutely had a wonderful time. And I
Mhm.
think it's a great premise for a podcast. And I mean, I'm all about it. I this is literally like what I do in my free time is go see movies and then talk about it. Um so
Yeah,
yeah, this was so lovely. And I love the tarot card component. And that was like so perfect for Deirdre. But yeah, yeah. Thank you for having me on.
thank you. Yeah, and yeah, if yeah, well, I guess we'll talk on Instagram about like if maybe an idea for podcast or something. Like I know you mentioned Titanic. We could read on that. But there's also
I mean,
maybe.
there's so many others. I mean, we could do a horror movie. I could do a horror movie too. That'd be fun. Cause I
Yeah,
mean, you don't think of like, I mean, if it's not, I mean, yes, of course there's metaphysical themes in horrors, but like, all the time, but even if it didn't have like anything otherworldly or paranormal,
yeah.
we could still find spiritual themes in the character arcs and what it's really about for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And off camera, there's something I want to talk to you about with that too, because, because also, what we were talking about with like ghost stories, there was Ghost. I know that that's not necessarily a horror film, but like The Sixth Sense is another one that I would like to do.
Sure, yeah, yeah.
Because that's a ghost story. I'm like really into like the ghost stories, but yeah, like one of the things, like I stopped like watching slasher films a while back, but I mean we could do a reading on one of those too, because I think there's definitely something to learn from that as well, you
Oh,
know.
yeah, I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and I'm not like a slasher horror watcher, but like I'm like an elevated horror. Like I think
Oh,
the last few years, some really great films have come out. But
yeah.
yeah, it's a fun premise, and yeah, I'll definitely if you ever see a movie that you're like, oh, I wonder if Heather's seen that, hit me up, and if I see one that I'm like, oh, I'd love to talk with Elena about that, I will. Yeah, I'll hit you up and be like, have you seen this? I'd love to talk about it. Yeah.
That would be perfect. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. All right. Well, everybody, this thank you for those that watched this. Thank you, Heather, for being a guest on this podcast. I really appreciate it, and it means a lot to me because this is like something that like I'm starting to gain more confidence in speaking in front of people and everything. And
Yeah.
yeah, and so like I'm terrified of public speaking, but this is something I'm doing to push through that. And
Hell yeah, good for
yeah,
you.
thank you. And yeah, so yeah, we'll plan something, and yeah, I
Yeah,
hope.
and let me know when the podcast is live. I'll share it far and wide.
Definitely. All right, well, you have a
Thank
wonderful.
you so much.
Yeah, and we'll talk soon.
Sounds good.
All right. All right, take care.
Bye.